Then friends, May 2005 question. X Private Limited assessment for the assessment year 2003 and 4 was completed under section 143(3) on December 31st, 2005. Company went in appeal to the Commissioner Appeals and appeal was decided on August 16, 2010. The appeal effect was duly given by the assessing officer on August 25, 2010. Thereafter, on September 1, 2011, assessing officer noticed a mistake in calculation of depreciation on a particular block of assets, which reduced the income by 1.1 lakh. Assessing officer issued a notice under section 154 for the purpose of rectifying the mistake. Is such a rectification is possible? Of course, question is so big, but when you sit in the exam, whenever you get questions on 147 or 154, first be clear with time limit for issuing the notice. Many a time the problems test your knowledge on the time limits. In the given problem also, there is a mistake apparent on the record which the assessing officer suo motu want to rectify, but there is a time limit for making such a rectification. That is, what is the time limit? Time limit is 4 years from the end of the financial year in which order sought to be rectified is passed. Any rectifications are to be carried out. If 4 years period is elapsed, you can't pass the rectification under section 154. Write down this one very important point, that is, rectification under section 154, rectification under section 154 can be passed up to 4 years, can be passed up to 4 years from the end of the financial year, from the end of the financial year in which order sought to be rectified, is passed. Order sought to be rectified is passed. See, I am not giving you the total solution. I am only making or educating you with respect to the points which you should remember. Then friends, we have a question in May 2005. Let me read the question. The company submitted a return of income for the assessment year 2010-11 on October 10, 2010. Assessing officer served a notice under section 143(2) on the company on August 14, 2011 in order to make an assessment under section 143(3). Thereafter, on September 1st, 2011, assessing officer issued an intimation under section 143(1). Such an intimation shows a demand of 10,500 towards the tax and interest. Company argues that issue of intimation under section 143(1) is bad in law. क्या चीज है? See, already you have issued a notice under section 143(2). That is, you want to take my case for scrutiny and complete the assessment under section 143(3). हो गया, आप तो 143(2) में नोटिस दिए, हम आके आपको बता देते, बाद में आप क्या सोचते वो सोचो और असेसमेंट 143(3) में कंप्लीट कर दो, राइट? बट ये क्या चीज है? 143(2) में नोटिस देते और 143(1) में इंटीमेशन देके इतना टैक्स भरो बताते। ऐसा कर सकते? नो। फर्स्ट अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट इज फर्स्ट, व्हाट इज नेक्स्ट। Myself and Vardhan yesterday gone for a marriage function. Let us suppose at the beginning I started with the curd. बाद में if I am taking the starters, Vardhan is saying to me, sir, what is this? Everybody is noticing us. You should have started with starters and ended with the curd. Having already eaten the curd, rice, अब आके ये क्या है साहब हम? If you do like that, I will not come with you for any other function. Because everybody is looking at you and also looking at me also. So वैसा थोड़ी बात यही है. क्या है? 143 नोटिस ऑलरेडी दे दिए, तो अब 143(1) इंटीमेशन का जरूरत क्या है इसके बाद? तो लिख लो दोस्त, दैट इज a notice under section 143(2), a notice under section 143(2) can be issued after the issue of intimation under section 143(1). But reverse is not possible. That is, if the assessing officer issues, notice under section 143(2), he cannot issue letter intimation under section 143(1). Intimation under section 143(1). Then friends, November 2004 का question, I am not reading the question nor the solution. इश्यू देख लो कैसा है. एक आदमी क्या करे, इनकम टैक्स रिटर्न फाइल कर दिए, करके क्या करे, उसमें मेरा टीडीएस इतना है, मेरा एडवांस टैक्स इतना है, मेरा सेल्फ असेसमेंट टैक्स इतना है बोल के रिटर्न डाल दिए. He thought that the return will be taken up for the scrutiny. It has not happened, right? Then this fellow goes and says to the income tax officer, "Sab, kaisa bhi aap hamara assessment nahi karwa rahe. When you are not interested to take up my case for assessment, kindly refund whatever the taxes we have paid." Questions ask you, can he say like that? For that, how we are developing the answer, सुन लो, लिखने का जरूरत नहीं. That is, on filing the return under section 139, the provisions of section 148 gets activated. Since if any taxes over and above those are paid by way of advance tax and tax deducted source remain, payment has to be made under section 140A before valid return of income could be filed by the assessee. Payment of pre-assessment taxes does not depend upon the assessment being made by the assessing officer. So, in the present case, J had paid the taxes on the basis of own declaration of the income, which is J's primary liability under section 4 of the Act, and pre-assessment taxes paid on the basis of admitted income do not become refundable in the absence of the assessment. It goes without saying, but questions like this will come at a small point, because again this joke may come in the exam. Write down one single line answer: pre-assessment taxes paid. Pre-assessment taxes paid on the basis of admitted income. on the basis of admitted income do not become refundable. Do not become refundable in the absence of assessment. In the absence of assessment. It is like what? Harita today is going from where? Amirpet to Koti. She got into a bus, took the ticket from the conductor. At the time of getting down, she is arguing with the conductor. Sir, since the inspector has not come and checked the tickets, kindly pay whatever I have paid. Because what is written there on the bus? You have to take a ticket, because any inspector can come and check the tickets. So, since he has not inspected, kindly refund that fare to me. बोले तो कैसा रहता? वैसा ही है ये क्वेश्चन भी, right? So sometimes more than the luck, common sense. Next, May 2003 का क्वेश्चन सुन लो. The return for the assessment year 2010 and 11 is filed within the time. SC during the course of assessment proceedings under section 143(2) noticed certain omissions and therefore filed a revised return on April 18, 2012. Assessing officer, ignoring the revised return so filed, framed the order on April 27, 2012. Is the action of the assessing officer is correct? Try to understand, friends. Revised return should be filed within what time? Revised return should be filed within 1 year from the end of the relevant assessment year or before the assessment gets completed. So, assessment year 2010 and 11, you are filing your return under section 139(1) before the due date only. Later on, you are filing a revised return when? April 18th, 2012. 2010 and 11 assessment year से 1 year ले लो. 1 year ले लो बोले तो 31st March 2012 तक आप revised return डाल सकते. If you are putting the revised return on April 18th, 2012, it is an invalid return. So it is perfectly correct on the part of the assessing officer to ignore that particular revised return. So here we are testing only the knowledge of the student that revised return can be filed up to what time? Up to 1 year from the end of the relevant assessment year or before the assessment gets completed, whichever is earlier. I am not making you to write that. Then friends, May 2003 question, Supreme Court judgment in Hindwire Industries. Point is, in an order of assessment for the assessment year 2008 and 9, SC noticed a mistake for which application under section 154 was moved and the order was rectified. Subsequently, SC moved further application for rectification under section 154, which was rejected by the assessing officer on the ground that order once rectified cannot be rectified again. Is the contention of the assessing officer is correct? एक क्या चीज है दोस्तों, इनकम टैक्स लॉ में क्या है, बार बार सुन लो, 1000 बार सुन लो बोल के एक गाना है ना, वैसा ही कितने बार चाहिए उतने बार एसएससी रिवाइज रिटर्न डाल सकते, प्रोवाइडेड एवरी टाइम व्हाट फॉर ही इज फाइलिंग द रिवाइज is something to correct a mistake which is inadvertent. Similarly, उनका भी क्या है, कितने बार चाहिए उतने बार within the time limit reassessments can be. There is no finality for the assessment. If they found income escaping the assessment within the time limit prescribed there in 149, case can be taken up for 147. If such kind of wonderful situation is there, Is it correct on the part of the assessing officer to say एक बार रेक्टिफिकेशन कर दिए, दूसरे बार मैं 154 में रेक्टिफिकेशन नहीं करते? तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट in Hindustan Industries Limited, what is stated? The assessing officer should have rectified both the mistakes. He has not done. One mistake he has done, one mistake he has not corrected. So if that is the case, he has to rectify the other mistake by taking up the case for one more time. Write down the friends point. Supreme Court in Hindwire Industries Limited, Supreme Court in Hindwire Industries Limited provides that rectification can be made before the expiry of 4 years, from the end of the financial year, in which order sought to be amended, was passed. The order sought to be amended, need not necessarily be the original order, It can be a rectified order also. Then friends, November 2003 question. X filed his return of income for the assessment year 2009 and 10 on March 15th, 2011. Assessing officer completed the assessment on December 25th, 2011 and served the order on December 30th, 2011. However, the notice of demand under section 156 was served on January 10th, 2012. X claimed that demand of the tax is invalid since notice of the demand was served beyond the time. Examine the issue. Point of interest is assessment got completed within the time, but demand notice is served after the time limit. In this context, Gujarat High Court in CIT versus Purushottam Das T. Patel, what it was held, unless the total income is determined and the determination of the tax is also done, it cannot be said that the process of the assessment is completed. What section 153 requires that assessment should be completed within the prescribed time limit, the word order of assessment cannot be construed to mean assessment of total income only. The words would mean an order in writing whereby total income of the assessee is assessed and the tax payable by him is determined. So under section 153(1), no order of the assessment would be made under section 143 or 144 after the expiry of 21 months from the end of the relevant assessment year. So in the given problem, in view of the aforesaid provisions, the tax is determined after the expiry of the time limit of passing the assessment order under section 153(1). So the assessment is a time barred and hence invalid. So it is presumed that the notice of the demand under section 156 was made after 31/12/2011. But what is the noteworthy point? Write down, friends. That is no order of assessment under section 143 or 144, that is a best judgment assessment, would be made no order of assessment under section 143 or 144 would be made after the expiry of 21 months. After the expiry of 21 months from the end of the relevant assessment year. From the end of the relevant assessment year. Order of assessment means order in writing, order in writing, whereby total income and the tax payable thereon is determined. Then friends, there is November 2002 question. A return of income for the assessment year 2009 and 10 filed on February 1st, 2011 was selected for scrutiny for the assessment for which notice under section 143(2) was issued on September 27, 2011. Examine whether the action initiated or taken by the income tax authorities are proper and valid. All these questions demands the understanding of the student with respect to the time limit. What is the time limit for issuing a notice under section 143(2)? It should be within 6 months from the end of the financial year in which the return is filed. That one point if you write, that is enough. That is, notice under section 143(2) can be served. Notice under section 143(2) can be served on the SSC, before the expiry of 6 months from the end of the financial year. Before the expiry of 6 months from the end of the financial year in which a return is filed. See, point here is best judgment assessment. Point of interest, next question, November 2002. SSC duly complied with the requirements of 139(1), 139(4), 142(1), 142(2)(a), 143(2). Still, is there a scope for doing the best judgment assessment? क्या है? आप जो भी बोले उनो करें. Still, do you have any other ground by which you can take up the case for the best judgment assessment? Yes. In case if the assessing officer is of the feeling that the accounts are incorrect and not complete, the method of accounting which is regularly employed is not being employed by the SSC. Similarly, the income under the head profits and gains from business and profession and income from other sources is computed by not adhering to the accounting standards notified by the central government. In these circumstances, a assessing officer can reject the books of accounts and can take up the case for the best judgment. Right? Write down. Assessing officer can reject the books. Assessing officer can reject the books in case A, they are incorrect and incomplete. They are incorrect oblique incomplete. B, method of accounting is not regularly employed. That means he is not consistently following the same method of accounting. Similarly, non-compliance with the accounting standards notified by the central government. Non-compliance with the accounting standards notified by the central government. Then of course friends, in that case he can reject the books and can take up the case for the best judgment. Then friends, November 2002 new syllabus, I am not discussing the question, only concept wise. Under section 149(1), notice under section 148 can be given up to a maximum of 6 years from the end of the relevant assessment year, provided the income escaping the assessment is exceeding 1 lakh. 1 lakh or more than 1 lakh. Write down that one point. As per section 149(1), notice under section 148 can be issued. Notice under section 148 can be issued up to 6 years from the end of the relevant assessment year. Up to 6 years from the end of the relevant assessment year. In case income chargeable to tax has escaped the assessment, amounts to are likely to amount to 1 lakh or more than 1 lakh or more for that year. Then friends, one more question, what is the liability of directors of a private limited company? If the private limited company fails to make the payment of the taxes, then the liability will go to the directors. Of course, directors, if they can prove that it is not because of their negligence, there is a failure on the part of the company to make the payment of the taxes, then they can be absolved from their obligation to pay the taxes. This is something which many times we have studied, so I am not making you to write that. Then friends, we have, what is it, another question, an assessment reopened under section 147 cannot be dropped. Is it correct? 147 में आप proceedings initiate कर दिए, तो it can't be dropped. Is it the case? What the answer says, section 152(2) provides that where an assessment is reopened under section 147, SC may, if he has not impugned any part of the original assessment order for that assessment year, either before the CIT appeals under section 246A or before CIT under section 264, claim that proceedings under section 147 shall be dropped on his showing that he has been assessed on amount not lower than what he would be rightly be liable for, even if the income alleged to have escaped the assessment had been taken into account. The assessment has been properly made. Therefore, as per section 152(2), proceedings under section 147 shall be dropped if some conditions are met with. It is not correct on our part to say that 147 proceedings cannot be dropped. They can be dropped provided the SSC goes and makes an appeal with Commission of Income Tax Appeals, or will go to a regular Commission of Income Tax under section 264. Point is, first thing for him to make an application for a dropping the 147 proceedings is original assessment order is something which he has not challenged. Original assessment order is something which he has not challenged. So the SC did not file any appeal with Commissioner of Income Tax or for a revision under section 264 for that original assessment order, and the SC can show that he had been already assessed and there is no income which escaped the assessment. And similarly, without serving the notice if the proceedings are initiated, or after the time limit which is prescribed in case if the notice is issued, proceedings are initiated, or where sanction, approval of the higher ups are required, assessing officer without taking the approval of the higher ups in case if he is taking up the case for reassessment. So without any reason to believe if the case is taken up for reassessment, these are all other grounds for asking for dropping of 147 proceedings. This I feel practically is also most important. Write down, friends, that is circumstances under which an assessment under section 147, an assessment under section 147 can be dropped. That is under section 152.2, under section 152.2, proceedings under section 147 shall be dropped. Proceedings under section 147 shall be dropped if the following conditions are satisfied. If the following conditions are satisfied, that is A, original assessment is not appealed, oblique requested for revision. Number 2, SSC can show that there is no income escaping the assessment. Then other circumstances, make side heading other circumstances, where proceedings are initiated, without issuing a notice, oblique issuing the notice after the time limit, oblique issuing the notice without taking the sanction, oblique without a reason to believe, Of course, you have, while writing in exam, you have to elaborate on all that. Then I go to November 2000. Of course, it's a repetition question. If self-assessment tax is not paid, what is the consequential effect? Under 220, interest can be levied. 221, penalty can be levied is a point. Then friends, that is May 2000 question. The assessment of the ex limited for the assessment year 2009 and 10 was completed under section 143(3) on June 30th, 2011. There was an audit objection that interest on borrowings ought to have been disallowed partly as there was a diversion of the borrowed funds to the sister concerns without charge of interest. Ex limited did not accept the audit objection on these facts. What are the options open to the revenue to deal with the audit objections? Can the assessment be reopened? If the assessing officer passed an order, if it is proved to be erroneous and prejudicial to the interest of the revenue, CIT regular can very well take up the case for revision under section 263. For taking up the case under section 263, what is most important is the order passed must be erroneous and prejudicial. Then if not, you go by 263 route. Assessing officer on his own can say that income escaped the assessment, so he can issue a notice under section 148 and can take up the case under section 147. So as a student you should be very clear what are the options available to the SSC, what are the options available to the department. Department में क्या है? Assessing officer can tell to the Commissioner of Income Tax telephonically, so that the Commissioner of Income Tax can very well start the revision under section 263, or alternatively he can start up the proceedings with 148 notice and 147 reassessment proceedings. Then May 99 question, on finding that the SC had claimed the excessive depreciation in 2007 and 8, assessing officer initiates the action under section 147 and completes the assessment. Subsequently, assessing officer has got a reason to believe that SC had failed to disclose certain other incomes, proceeds on May 14th, 2011 to reassess the income under section 147. Can he do so? Point of interest is there is no prohibition anywhere. Of course, already I made you to write these points. 147 में reassessment कितने बार कर सकते, कितने बार चाहिए उतने बार कर सकते, as long as every time you have a reason to believe that there is an income escaping the assessment, and as long as the time limit prescribed under section 149 is not expired. That way you have to develop that particular answer.